Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about 20 more predictions I have for the future of the Kingdom Hearts series. As you can probably tell, this is a follow-up to a previous video I made. You guys really seem to like that video, so I thought now would be a good time for another one. Keep in mind that you don't need to watch part 1 to know what's going on in this video, but you could check it out if you'd like, the link is in the description. When I made that video, Melody of Memory had not been announced yet, so we'll be taking the time now to give some predictions on that game in particular, and what lies beyond that. You may be expecting me to predict all of Phase 2, but honestly with how Kingdom Hearts is with release dates and everything, it seems pretty unpredictable. So I won't really touch upon release dates, but I will be talking about future games, side stories, Kingdom Hearts 4, and everything else, so let's just jump right into it. Starting off, my first prediction is that the next big Kingdom Hearts title will be Dream Drop Distance 2. In Remind, we were told that Riku dreamt the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret ending. Perhaps Yozora's Shibuya is a sleeping world, meaning that in order to save Sora, Riku must yet again dive into the sleeping realm. It seemed like the secret ending was showcasing both Sora and Riku's different perspectives in Shibuya. There's been a lot of speculation about a possible Dream Drop Distance 2. And honestly, I think it's the best bet for the next big Kingdom Hearts title. We also saw the Master of Masters and Yozora in the secret ending. If there is a Dream Drop Distance 2, I think it would be amazing if Riku's final boss was Yozora and Sora's final boss was the Master of Masters, and this would lead right into Kingdom Hearts 4. The Yozora fight was crazy, and I want a boss fight like that with the Master. I want to see just how powerful he can be. Let him become more terrifying than he already is. I'm telling you, nothing would get me more hyped for Kingdom Hearts 4 than a boss fight with Sora versus the Master of Masters. Except maybe a Lilo and Stitch world. Next, and bear with me here, I think we're getting a Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix. Now I'm not saying we're getting any new content added to Kingdom Hearts 3 at all. What I am expecting is for Square to follow their trend of releasing Kingdom Hearts bundles such as the Story So Far and the All-in-One package, by releasing KH3 with the Remind DLC built into the game and the price. A KH3 Final Mix just seems too perfect. I mean, there has to be a reason why the DLC was called Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind instead of Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix. The reason is because it's not really a Final Mix. A current day Final Mix would have all its content in the package without you having to download anything extra. That's why it would be a Final Mix. So I'm definitely expecting Square somewhere down the line to release Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix with just the Kingdom Hearts 3 base game and the Remind DLC, just like what they did with 1.5 and 2.5. Speaking of 1.5 and 2.5, I think it's about time that those games get ported to the Nintendo Switch. Now that Melody of Memory is coming to the Switch, we have seen firsthand that the Kingdom Hearts series is open to being on Nintendo consoles again. Having KH2 portable alone would sell like crazy, so putting the rest of the remixes on the Switch is definitely a big deal. I think sooner than later we will see these games on the Switch, and possibly Sora for Smash, but I've talked about that enough already. Now let's talk about Melody of Memory. I'm personally predicting that this will be 100% rhythm game without playable Kairi. I feel like if Kairi was playable, they would have advertised it. I wouldn't totally count out the possibility of a playable Kairi section maybe as the final boss, but for now I'm going to say it's only going to be the rhythm game with the Kairi and KH3 relevant cutscenes in between. While it would be a bummer if Kairi was not playable in Melody of Memory, I wouldn't worry about it too much because for my second prediction, I do believe that before Kingdom Hearts 4 we will have a playable Kairi adventure. Whether it be her own game or a story path in a much bigger game, I do believe we will have in some sense a Kairi adventure in the traditional Kingdom Hearts style. I don't think they created playable Kairi to only use her in one boss in the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. It seems more likely that they'll be using her again. Looking deeper into the Melody of Memory trailer, there was a quick scene of what looked to be a hooded figure revealing his secret identity. While it would be pretty neat for this to be the Master of Masters, I don't think that's the case. They've been building up the Master's identity as one of, if not the biggest mystery of Kingdom Hearts lore. It just doesn't make sense to me for him to not only reveal himself in a side story rhythm game, but also for them to tease it in the trailer. Because of this, I side with those who believe this person is Xehanort. It seems like this game is going to showcase some past interactions with Xehanort and Kairi. If so, it makes more sense for it to be him rather than the Master of Masters. With the English subbed trailer, Kairi says to the hooded figure that if it weren't for him, Sora would be safe. Using that logic, I'm sure you could apply those words to the Master of Masters' actions, but in a more direct sense, that definitely fits Xehanort's description. We were led to believe that after Kingdom Hearts 3, we would be done with Xehanort. In my opinion, I think we will be. I don't believe Old Man Xehanort will appear again. Rather, I do predict young Xehanort will remain in the series at least for a little longer. We already have a whole game about him, and it seems like there's more to Xehanort's story than we know, considering that he knows the Master of Masters. So I do believe we will see much more of young Xehanort, especially in relation to Scala Adkylum and the Master of Masters. Now we're going to be moving on from the in-between aspects of Kingdom Hearts, and be entirely talking about my predictions for KH4. So to start, I think the game will have 3 main villains throughout, those being Luxu, Yozora, and the Master of Masters. These 3 will be the ones meddling through the worlds and going up against the Guardians. Of course there could be more, but right now, this is our best bet for who we got. The Foretellers will have a prevalent role in the game. But for a good chunk of the game, I predict that Luxu will be slowly keeping information from them and playing mind tricks against them in their own little corner. Their scenes together will be mostly in between worlds. I don't really think the Foretellers are villains, or at least not all of them, so I don't really see them meddling in the worlds or going against the Guardians of Light. We got our villains and that's great, but what's the game about? Our main characters believe that saving Sora is their main goal at the moment. They've saved the world from Xehanort, and all the big bad things going on behind the scenes, like Luxu having the box and the Master of Masters, is pretty unknown to all our characters. One of the few remaining threats that are still out there that they know of is the box. They were searching for the box in Kingdom Hearts 3, so I believe that when Luxu shows everybody that he has the box already, it will act as a catalyst for the next adventure. They have to try to find Luxu and the box and figure out what's inside of it before it's too late. With the new Kingdom Hearts adventure, of course, comes new Disney Worlds. So which new Disney Worlds could we be expecting to venture into in Kingdom Hearts 4? The worlds in KH3 were the best in the series, but of course due to their size and detail, the number of worlds was limited. And with this limited world count came a focus on Disney's bigger intellectual properties and iconic characters. Of course I would love for smaller films and IPs to get in KH games, but I understand why Square would rather make a world on Toy Story over Atlantis. For a big numbered KH title, you can't really use one of your 7 precious world slots on a franchise a lot of people aren't already acclimated to. If this mindset is taken further into KH4, then I can't really see them passing up the opportunity to make a world on the Marvel movies. I'm sure I don't have to convince anyone how big the Marvel movies are. Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing movie of all time. Using these characters from the movies in Kingdom Hearts would be such a huge deal and would really benefit the game. Because of the MCU's popularity and success, I think it's more likely than not that Square will seek out a Marvel MCU based world. As for the world itself, I can definitely see them basing it off of one of the Avengers movies, or it could have an original plot. But either way, I definitely see Square trying to get the Marvel characters like the Avengers paired up with Sora, Donald, and Goofy in KH4. It's likely that Pirates is not coming back, so it might be time for a new cinematic universe to enter the Kingdom Hearts series. Sticking to Disney Worlds, my next prediction is that Toy Box will be returning again with an original plot, but this time much more heavily focused on Yozora. I think it's pretty likely that Toy Story will return either way, and I also believe that since Yozora was introduced in this world, it makes a lot more sense for them to be intertwined yet again. If they need to find out more about Yozora, it would make sense for them to return to Toy Box, since he's a pretty prevalent figure in that world, being from Verum Rex. For these last predictions, we're going to get into heavy plot for Kingdom Hearts 4. These are all just my opinions and theories, of course, but I think these are all possible. For one, I believe the Yozora bad ending is canon. In the secret ending, Sora wakes up in Shibuya. Well, how else would he get there if it wasn't for what happened in the bad ending? I'm starting to believe that the good ending is really just a reward for beating Yozora. But more on the topic of Yozora. Why does he look just like Riku? Well, I'm going to make a wild prediction that something happened to Riku on his journey to save Sora, where a new being was created. This being took the identity of Yozora, but the appearance of Riku. All that's left of Riku in this being is his desire to save Sora, which is why Yozora does what he does to Sora. Now of course there are some pretty big holes in this theory, such as the fact that Yozora looked like Riku long before Riku ever had to save Sora, but I still think this is a really cool potential explanation for why Riku and Yozora look identical. Maybe Yozora/Riku's vessel went back in time and went through the world Sora went to and found Toy Box. It's hard to explain, but I still think this is a cool idea. If Riku could possibly be Yozora, is Sora the Master of Masters? This has been a highly discussed topic in the Kingdom Hearts community. It seems there is some evidence pointing to Sora being the Master of Masters, but I'm predicting that he is not. Now I'm not totally dismissing the idea that the Master has the appearance of Sora, or rather an older version of him. While I do think it's a little overdone since we already have Vanitas, I could still entertain the idea that somehow the Master looks like Sora, even though I don't really believe it. But I don't really think it's possible for Sora to grow up and become the Master of Masters himself. For one, it just doesn't make sense to build Sora up to be as strong-hearted and compassionate as he is, and then turn him into an evil mastermind. Maybe if we saw a change of character in KH3 for him, I could believe it. But if anything, Sora has been more selfless than he ever has been before. Sora used the power of waking to save his friends over and over again, even after being explicitly told it would destroy him. In terms of a character continuity sense, I don't see how Sora could ever turn out to be anything like the Master of Masters. We also heard from Xehanort in Remind that he never learned the identity of the Master of Masters. We don't know if the Master actually said his name, but if he said his name was Sora, then Xehanort would obviously know who he was and he wouldn't have ever said that. Whatever does happen to Sora, I just think he's too much of a kind-hearted person to ever turn out to be the Master of Masters. So while Sora might not be the Master, I do have an idea of who he could be. I feel like it's more of a what he is than who he is, as I'm predicting that the Master has no physical form. When the Master said his name to Xehanort in their conversation together, all that appeared was a flash of light. Perhaps as of now, the Master is the embodiment of light, or something relating to that. This is not to say that the Master did not once have the physical form, but as of now, I believe that the Master of Masters is merely just a being that exists in his coat. Presumably, if the Master had no body, that would allow him to jump between time like we've seen him do before. Well, what about the gazing eye? If he was just a non-physical presence, how could he have an eye? Well, this leads into my last prediction. Like I said earlier, I believe that as of now, the Master is just a spirit or a non-physical presence. But I do believe that there is a vessel, a Dream Eater vessel, that better fits his gazing eye that surely no human would have. I believe that the Master of Masters, in origin, is some kind of Dream Eater creature whose vessel is now in the box that he gave to Luxu. My last prediction is an answer for what's in the box. It's the Master's original Dream Eater vessel that he will re-obtain once Luxu has fulfilled his role and brought the box into current times. So why now? Why didn't the Master use his vessel during the days of Union Cross? Because now the role of the Master is about to go into motion. Because he must face the Guardians of Light who stopped the Keyblade War and defied fate. But remember, those are all just my predictions/theories, and if you like them, be sure to let me know in the comments. That's all I got for you guys today, and until next time, thank you for watching.